You find a place miles away from anyone else, lock the heavy wooden door, and finally breathe. It feels perfectly safe. Then a heavy fist pounds against the glass. We have a universal psychological drive to seek out isolated spaces. When social anxiety becomes paralyzing, or a relationship implodes, or grief becomes too heavy to carry in public, we instinctively look for a remote cabin. We want to distance ourselves from the pressure of the modern world. But there is a glaring oversight in how we view these retreats. By intentionally stripping away the stress of society, we completely remove its safety net. Out in the deep woods, help is entirely theoretical. This conceptual blueprint illustrates a typical remote cabin. Notice the massive distance from emergency services. In extreme isolation, the ultimate threat rarely comes from a bear or a ghost. The true danger comes from how other human beings operate within 3 specific zones of vulnerability. We can break these human threats down into 3 distinct archetypes based on exactly where they originate: the Trojan horse operating inside the walls, the uncanny predator stalking the perimeter, and the hidden parasite waiting in the spaces above and below. Stacy and her boyfriend planned a quiet couple's getaway to escape the winter grind, inviting their best friend Randy to split the cost. But less than a week before the trip, Randy went through a messy breakup. Desperate not to go alone, he brought a last-minute variable, a brand-new rebound girlfriend named Lucy. The tension began during a casual game of Uno. Lucy exploded into a toddler-like rage, screaming in her normally mousy voice that Stacy was cheating. Hours later at dinner, she abruptly shifted gears, oversharing intensely private and embarrassing details about her new relationship, while Randy sat there mortified. That night, the awkward tension escalated into pure panic. Randy woke up in the dark to find Lucy silently staring at him from the foot of the bed. When he pulled back the blanket to check her side of the mattress, he found a large kitchen knife resting exactly where she had been sleeping. Randy sneaked out into the pitch-black living room. He found Lucy skipping around the dark cabin, humming a tune. Suddenly, she stopped, turned her head toward him, and whispered, "I see you." Moments later, she walked straight out the front door into the freezing forest, wearing only a t-shirt and shorts. The knife was gone. Lucy represents the Trojan horse. You vet the location, you lock the doors, but social obligation convinces you to invite an unknown variable inside. The isolation acts as an amplifier. Once the danger reveals itself, you are physically trapped in the box with the exact threat you willingly brought along. Another traveler, Victor, routinely sought out remote wilderness cabins specifically to manage his severe social anxiety. He loved the absolute lack of human interaction, but on a Saturday night after a deeply paranoid hike, that peace broke. At 11 p.m., a heavy knock hit the heavy wooden door. Outside stood a clean-cut man, about 6 feet tall, dressed in a sharp business suit. In a completely flat, emotionless voice, the man claimed he had been walking around for hours looking for his lost girlfriend and asked to come inside. Seeing a man prepared for a corporate boardroom standing on a secluded forest porch near midnight is jarring. While he claimed his girlfriend was missing, he showed zero panic, creating a mismatch between his story and his behavior. When Victor refused to open the door, the predator dropped his act entirely. He started aggressively pounding the heavy wood, laughing out loud. He pressed his face right up against the small glass window and calmly said, "Come on, Victor, just open the door already." Somehow, this stranger in the dark knew his real name. Victor called 911 and endured 15 agonizing minutes staring through the glass, waiting. When the single rural patrol car finally pulled up, the man in the suit was gone. But as the officer walked Victor to the cruiser, they discovered why the man had laughed. All 4 tires on Victor's car had been slashed. Look at this map visualizing the reality of the uncanny predator. They weaponize the geography against you. By disabling your vehicle, they reduce your escape radius to 0, deliberately stranding you far outside the 15-minute response window of local law enforcement. An estranged son traveled to his deceased father's remote cabin to clean it out for a quick sale. The father hadn't visited the property in over a year. When the son unlocked the front door, the first thing he noticed was an overwhelming foul odor rolling out of the interior. He assumed a wild animal had died somewhere inside. As he deep cleaned the ground floor, he kept hearing the distinct sound of rustling coming from directly above him. Moving toward the back hallway, he looked up. The heavy latch for the ceiling crawlspace was wide open, the ladder was pulled down, and the floor below it was littered with empty food wrappers and garbage. Later that night, sitting in the dimly lit living room, the son noticed a filthy blanket draped on the floor near a recliner. Sticking out from the bottom edge of the fabric was the heel of a heavy boot. As his eyes adjusted to the dark, he watched the blanket rhythmically rise and fall with the breath of a human being. He sprinted to his car, locked the doors, and threw it in reverse. Looking back through the headlights, he watched a filthy, mangy man walk out of the front door of his father's cabin. The squatter had been secretly living in the ceiling right above him, entirely undetected. This is the hidden parasite. Extreme isolation creates abandoned spaces. When a sanctuary is left unguarded for months, it becomes an open invitation for anyone looking for shelter, heat, and a place to hide. Lucy, the man in the suit, and the attic squatter all share the exact same resolution. After revealing themselves, they walked off into the deep woods and vanished completely. No arrests, no records, no answers. The wilderness offers a unique kind of anonymity. The massive geography that prevents your neighbors from hearing your music can also shield a predator from the consequences of their actions. Extreme isolation is a double-edged sword. It strips away the overwhelming noise and anxiety of the modern world, but it dismantles every single line of defense you have along with it. If you plan on going off the grid, heavily scrutinize who you bring, double-check your perimeter locks, and inspect the hidden spaces, because the quiet sanctuary you run to